All right, this is the fourth Dungeons & Dragons therapy session as demonstrated by the masters of using Dungeons & Dragons in therapy, Adam Johns, Adam Davis from Game to Grow, a nonprofit of which I am on the board that promotes the use of games in therapeutic and educational and parenting goals. And so as a way of demonstrating how Dungeons & Dragons can be used in therapy, we're having our fourth installment. Because it's one thing to learn about Dungeons & Dragons by demonstrating it for 15 minutes. It's another thing to demonstrate it over 4 different sessions, several hours each. And you really get a sense, I hope, listening to this, about how players, say, if they had social skills issues or self-esteem issues or maturity issues or anxiety issues or identity issues, that after 4 sessions, each character that each of us are playing are quite fleshed out, and the relationships between each player start to get fleshed out. So I hope that's what you're listening for when you do this. So welcome to the podcast out there. This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist, a professor, and I'm a mountain dwarf of 60 years old, lawful good, and my name is Thrain, and I'm a priest. Who are you, Berto?
My name is Humberto Castañeda, and I play Grollo the Cruel. I'm a half-orc, beastly thing with impulsive impulses, but very good friend of Thrain.
I'm Adam Davis. I'm one of the executive directors of Game to Grow, and I'm also playing Shush, a tiefling bard who just wants to make friends.
So sweet. I'm Adam Johns. I'm the other executive director of Game to Grow, and I am acting as the dungeon master and game master of this campaign. Kirk, I really like that you said specifically about the relationships. I'm actually going to pose a challenge and a question to the listeners. Adam and I are relatively new to the Psychology in Seattle podcast, but the long-term listeners who've been listening to Kirk, you, and Humberto all together for a really long time have gotten to know you as your personalities have come through the podcast. And one of the things that we really look at in our groups is how characters and players relate to each other. So the kind of character you play is always a meaningful part of how you relate to the game, and it's a meaningful part of what's going on. So the question that I would pose to the listeners are there things in Grollo's history or in Grollo's personality that make a lot of sense from what you know of Humberto? And are there things in Thrain's history or in Thrain's personality that make a lot of sense in one way or another to Kirk's personality and what you know about him?
Are we asking for ourselves? Are we answering for ourselves right now?
I mean, you should think about it for yourselves. If you have like an interesting thought on it, you should definitely chime in.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it all the time. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since 1980 or 81 or something, and there's definite patterns of the kind of characters that I prefer to play. Because, you can play lots of different characters, and I have over the years, but I tend to gravitate towards certain characters. However, in the beginning, when I was in the 6th grade, I played very different characters. Interesting, it was also a dwarf, but I think he was like a fighter, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a thief. But my point is that character, when I was in the 6th grade, I made to be the most powerful character I could make, and I would play with my friends, and we would sort of like, okay, so let's get to something where I can get a lot of experience points, and then I would get a lot of experience points, and I would say, let's get to something where I can get a lot of money because then I'm going to buy things because the Dungeon Master Guide had these like money equivalents of all the different magical items and artifacts, and I was just like, I didn't read because I was not about reading. I was just like, so I just buy artifacts and before long
max out.
You just get all of them.
And before long I was just DMing myself, like I wasn't even playing with other people, and I proceeded to kill every god in the Deities and Demigods book. And I had Boots of Flying, and I had a +5 Vorpal sword that like Elric had from the Deities and Demigods, and I was like, one shot, head off, one shot, head off, and
Oh my God.
I rolled a 1, I'll re-roll it, and so that's what I needed at the time, that was my developmental phase. Heading on into my 40s, I tend to play way more support characters, and highly moral characters. Like I've always liked to play moral characters, but the older I get, like I want to play the goodliest of good characters. Like there's just something about wanting to be helpful. It's like the developmental stages of life. They often talk about this, where you enter that generative, trying to benefit society and other people portion of your life. You're less focused on your career. You're less focused on your own needs, because you presumably have sort of figured out how to meet your needs. And so, but it's not just support. It's also, I like characters that cast spells, because I fancy myself a smart person. So I want, like, every once in a while I'll like say, okay, I'm gonna play a character like Grollo, like Umberto's playing. Like I just want to play a barbarian, just like no frills, and I'm just gonna run into battle. And instantly I start trying to work my skills to like help other people. I just can't play that kind of like I don't want to say selfish, but self-centered kind of character.
Sure.
And you have to agree that that's like I'm not just role playing a character who likes to be helpful. Like it's pretty clear I get a little jolly from like trying to help these town people, NPCs that really mean nothing. You know what I mean? But it's definitely, it feels like that's a satisfaction that I'm looking for in life, that I'm trying to get through the game. What about you, Bern?
That makes sense. So for me, in not only role-playing paper times, but also in video games that are like RPGs, like Diablo, these kind of things, I tend to pick barbarians, like the dumbest, brutiest barbarians. And I think it's a combination of things. On the one hand, I actually really got boggled by the complexity of like trying to max out a character with all the little details. So there was a simplifying, when I was younger, there was a simplifying part to be like, you know what? Just give me a big axe and like, let me level up that way, right? So that was part of it. But the other part too is sort of as a counter to what Kirk is saying, is a lot of the things that I enjoy in life and I do are sort of quote unquote brainy things. And it is kind of nice to like play a simpler version of myself. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to think these things through. I just run into battle and swing, and that's kind of liberating in a way. Yeah. And then the other thing that I try to do is inject humor. Like that was always a component for me. And if you know me, that's sort of my personality too, right?
And it's a particular kind of humor. Right. Like Shush is also humorous, but you're humorous in a way that is self-deprecating. Right.
Grollo is a little, slow on the uptake.
Which you do in social situations, which you've talked about in the podcast before. Right. You don't mind being the butt of the joke.
Right.
The butt monkey is
the butt Grollo.
And so you're interweaving that with your character.
Yeah, and so that does have a lot of similarities to other times that I've done that. Yeah.
Do you think, just as, this is me being a therapist, but that you have a unmet desire to not have to think and sort of impulsively just burst into a room and act out your id?
Yes.
Yeah, because Grollo's a lot of id.
Yeah. Well, you could, so you want to get psychology. Like, what is this, a psychology podcast? But when I was a kid and situations were happening with my mom leaving and the divorce and all these things, the overwhelming feeling, and we've talked about this before, that I had was, why is this happening? Who's got answers, right? And so this kind of feeling of like, well, screw this, I'm gonna fix everything, right? I'm just gonna like, and just kind of like, let me into the room, give me my axe, I'm gonna fix this, right? That kind of thing. I don't want reasons, I don't want to think about it, just want brute force to fix what's wrong.
Well, and another layer to this, not to make it even more uncomfortable for everybody concerned, but your backstory of your character involves broken family and mismatched parents.
Right.
And my background is like all good.
Right.
You know, like, because I come from pretty stable childhood. Like I probably have the most, and I've always had this really boring backstories because everyone always goes, it's sort of a trope to go with like, I don't know my dad, you know, it's sort of, it makes for an interesting story, but I have a hard time doing that because maybe I've never thought about this, but it feels like I might be disloyal to my own parents for even role playing having bad parents. Do you know what I mean?
So I guess it would be a harder role playing departure for me to play, you know, very centered,
character,
balanced character.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's perfect. Like the reflection piece actually is one of the most important parts of this, which is I don't necessarily need to have like a determination or an important input into how you relate to your character. Right. It's more your opportunity to reflect on how do those things matter. And there's so much depth there. Like you were saying, there's a lot of layers to this, and a lot of opportunity where I pull things into my character that I never realized that I was something that was from my real life.
Do you do this with your clients, with the kids?
Sometimes it depends on the clients and kind of where they're at in their process.
Because it's a pretty high-minded question, a pretty self-reflective, vulnerable question. Insight question to ask them.
We do check-in questions at the start of every session with our kids, and at the end of each quarter, one of the check-in questions that we ask is, what advice would you give your character, and then what advice would your character give you? And that's a real opportunity to think about where does your character struggle, and where do you have positivity that you can give to your character, and vice versa. Where do you struggle, and your character takes on strengths or positivity that
what kind of things do you hear? I'm curious.
All sorts of stuff. Some of it's really reflective to the player's challenge, which will sometimes be like, I think for an impulsive player, they might say, well, I think my character would tell me to slow down a little bit and maybe take a little bit more time to think things through before I jump in, which is great advice and great recognition of the challenges that they have around impulse. But then we'll hear sometimes goofier answers to some of the questions if the players are really not at a place where they're ready to reflect on that in a deeper way, which we try to discourage this, but like advice of like, you should learn how to cast magic spells. their character tells them, which is, I guess, good advice, but not super useful.
That's actually why we started changing the check-in question from what advice would your character give you to what lesson could you learn from your character. Because sometimes people play characters kind of like Grollo, which is almost like, certainly it's cathartic, but you don't necessarily want to be more like Grollo sometimes without a lot of caveats. Like, Grollo is unapologetic.
Right.
And maybe that's something that's good sometimes. But also, like, the lesson wouldn't be, go run and hit things harder with...
Well, I know. I think I know what Grollo would tell me, though.
What would he tell you?
He'd be like, don't be so lazy in the mornings. Get up! You know, because, like, Grollo is many things, but... I anticipate he wakes up pretty early and is banging some tree or training or doing something.
He's very disciplined.
Very disciplined. Yeah.
So Grollo might give you some advice about this, which we might have to like break that down into the good advice underneath it,
or reframe that into the
so maybe not like go hit the tree till your knuckles are bleeding, but you know.
Right. Sometimes characters though are cautionary tales. Like you can learn a lesson. We'd always tell the players this too. You can learn a lesson from The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Or The Three Little Pigs. Like, you learn from the pigs who get eaten as much as you learn from the pig who doesn't get eaten. And sometimes characters can make mistakes, and you can learn from those mistakes, too. Right. I should not have run in there and hit that guy without planning. That is a cautionary tale that sometimes is a useful takeaway also.
Yeah, it is really interesting to think about that, because even as, you know, I'm not going to answer it because I don't think I have one, but to think about, like, what my character would tell me, you know what I mean? Because obviously my character is me. Mm-hmm. It's just an aspect of my... But what about you, Adam? What about Shush and you?
So it's funny because Shush is a bard who's a performer, and I spent nearly a decade of my life as an actor. So there's lots of overlap between me as a performer and Shush as an aspiring performer. So I was an actor for like 8 years or so before I went into study drama therapy, and I always wanted to like get discovered. I always wanted somebody to like be in the audience and then go, I'm going to fly you to New York. and you're gonna audition for Broadway. I've always wanted, but I never actually like went to those auditions. I hated auditioning.
You didn't go to New York.
No, I never went to New York. I never went to LA.
Right.
I never did any of those things, but I just hoped that it would happen. So I like playing characters who also have that sort of aspirational desire to be discovered or to fit in or to have people notice them. And that probably says more about my childhood than anything else, because all my characters I ever played growing up were all bards or rogues or something like that who were some way aspirational. They weren't me because I was not confident. I was not that comfortable in my own skin. So I played bards or I played rogues who could fit in or be like comfortable in social situations, but also I like the really agile characters who could disappear whenever they wanted to, because I was kind of a bullied kid around middle school age, and
so being able to disappear would have been very useful. Okay.
And I wanted to, because like I was, like if you're kind of a fat kid who gets bullied a lot, if you always feel like people are looking at you,
right?
So when I could play like a ninja, that was really enjoyable.
Huh. Wow, that really fleshes out my vision of your character now.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, how so?
That adds a lot of layers there.
As a therapist.
Well, just that
my projective technique that I'm
your personality pros and cons are reflected in Shush's behavior that you've constructed.
Yeah.
It's not just a decision that you made on the fly. It's actually a legitimate expression of your personality.
So what's so interesting about that is that originally it was an on-the-fly decision. Like Shush was originally, when we first did our very first podcast, we weren't expecting to go anywhere with it necessarily. Right. We were going to play one fun thing, and Shush like kind of sort of barely was a real player because I knew the story that we were going to do. And then as I've played Shush, it's purely, this is a Rorschach test. Shush became me, even though he didn't start off as me. He is now more and more me the more we play as him.
Well,
I play as him.
Certainly, like the stuff I was just saying about Grollo, I did not plan any of that.
Right.
I mean, but of course I would have gravitated to barbarians because I said, like that kind of thing. But I certainly didn't sit there, oh, well, because of this, I should probably make him this way. As you're pointing out, some of that stuff just comes out.
Yeah, and some of it becomes sort of necessity to the plot, right?
Yeah.
You want things to make sense. So when I asked you in the last podcast recording, what history does Grollo have with his people?
Right.
You came up with the idea that Grollo must have had a mentor, which from Grollo coming from a broken family makes a lot of sense. By plot, Grollo's learned some things about orc culture and about being an orc and those things that necessitates having to have that role. But it also raises a lot of really interesting points and what you bring in.
Right.
Grollo had a bad relationship with his family, but now has this other role. There was somebody in his life that was a good, maybe partial parenting relationship.
Right.
And as we're fleshing out the backstory between Grollo and Thrain, there's also a sort of helping role that Thrain has taken on of being maybe to some extent parental to Grollo. He certainly takes on the role of protecting Grollo,
right,
and supporting Grollo in a lot of that.
And every time we go out in the town, Kirk's my protector.
Right.
No, Bear, don't run in there and do crazy stuff.
But there's a lot of,
and I try to cast spells on you, and it never works.
Actually, always trying to cast bless.
To be honest, he's been more of an instigator sometimes.
Yeah. That's what people don't know.
Yeah. But that's not the role of this character. That's not the part of you you're putting into this.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe the partier in Thrain will come out at some point.
That's gonna come out today.
Sorry, I was gonna say that the other part that I realized when you asked me that is I talked about the food. And, food for me growing up was so important with my family and stuff. So, I mean, I certainly in the moment thought, oh, yeah, because that's important to me. But it is funny how, like, these are the things that come out by default, unless you're explicitly trying to not. Mm-hmm. Certainly if the assignment was given to me, oh, now come out with a completely different character. Like, I'll be very conscious about maybe steering in different paths. But when you're just saying, come up with a character, it seems to be that we pull from what we know or what we fear or what we love.
And actually, the thing that we found is even players who try to jump in and they try to play a really explicit character. I had a player who wanted to play Nicolas Cage, And that was their character, and so the whole character was just references.
In which movie though?
It was actually Nicolas Cage across all the movies.
Oh my gosh.
So the character was just
The
reference
meta
after
Cage.
reference from Nicolas Cage movies.
Even Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah, it was everything that player had ever seen from Nicolas Cage. So they made references to Bees and to Face Off and to Ghost Rider, and we made a whole character around that. But at some point, the player still has to make decisions about what kinds of decisions the character will make, and those moments are the moments where they can base it off those things. But maybe they didn't see every Nick Cage movie.
Right.
Maybe they saw Nick Cage movies, but they lean towards some of them more than other ones. Like, those things still play a role in that. You still have to speak to your experiences and what you know when you're putting that into a character, even when there's some prescribed things that are set up ahead of time.
Totally. Well, let's take a break, and when we get back, let's get into it. What do you say?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right, we're back from the break. If you haven't become a patron of the podcast, do so now. Go to patreon.com. Also, if you're having trouble with the premium feed, email us at contact@psychologyinseattle.com because we can help you with it. Also, go to game2grow.org and donate if you're interested. I noticed someone actually recently donated to my December campaign page recently. That was pretty cool of people.
It still accepts donations.
Yeah.
Even though technically the campaign is closed, it still accepts donations.
Yeah. So
Miracles of modern internet science.
Right. And if you're a clinician or a parent or an educator and you want to learn more, go to game2grow.org and particularly sign up for the Critical Core. How do people do that, Adam?
So you can go to criticalcore.org and join our mailing list, or go to game2grow.org/criticalcore to see a small write-up about sort of what Critical Core is about. We've been traveling to various different cons and answering questions and giving some presentations, so people can also go to game2grow.org/events to see whenever you are listening to this, that calendar will be updated with the upcoming events.
Great. And Critical Core is a physical product that will eventually be sent out to people, last I heard anyway, and will be you'll be trained on it, and you could actually use it with your people that you want to use it with.
It's a project that's basically going to be coming to Kickstarter within the next couple of months. When this gets posted, the Kickstarter may be live, and it's really designed to be a take-home kit for parents and teachers and therapists who've never played a role-playing game before, never played Dungeons and Dragons before, to get them introduced into the game, to get them started with a lot of that. It has a stripped-down set of rules, really designed to be approachable, both from those facilitators, but also from neurodiverse populations that can have a game they can jump into, and a module designed specifically to help with social skill development, especially with challenges related to autism and autism related difficulties.
This is the first of its kind, as far as we know, really, and it's been essentially tested, not the exact thing, but the model of activity has been tried and tested by Adam and Adam for many years, and has worked with many, many people who continue to come back over and over and over again every week and die. They just are dying to come. And
They don't actually die.
Yeah, they're dying to come. And so if you want it's evidence enough for me, an evidence-based product that will actually help people get on the Critical Core bandwagon, people. All right, let's get into it.
Let's play some D&D. So does anybody want to do the sort of recap from the previous game, or would you like me to do that?
I'll do it if I can remember it right. So the last time we were in town, and we started with an alarm going off because there were arrows flying, there was something on fire, and the guards got ready, and there were some orcs in the woods, and they were firing arrows, and we went up there to investigate, and we tried to help out with the orcs, but then we noticed some shadowy figures in town, so the three of us went to investigate the two shadowy figures, and we were in an alleyway or something, and we essentially got attacked by these two sneaky assassin-y kind of people. Were they humans?
They were orcs.
They were orcs.
Yeah.
and we Grollo and Shush opened the can of whoop ass and got some serious damage done on those two guys and subdued the guy. Anyway, it was like a brother sister team, and we found out that they were sent to kill us, including Nicholas, by the way.
Yeah.
And did we find out who sent them?
No. When you questioned the orc, the necklace that he was wearing choked him to death.
Yeah.
Before he could answer.
And there was that symbol again of Grumsh that we saw on them. So I saw the symbol of Grumsh in my dream.
Yes.
And this is the first time we've seen it in real life, right? Or did we see it with the orcs as well?
You saw it in one other place. It was on a. You didn't see it. It was described to you by Nicholas, who was following the Lord Blancmere.
Yeah.
Who said that he also had a similar necklace.
Right.
That had the symbol of Grumsh.
By the way, so the right before the female orc disappeared, she said something to her brother. Can you remind us what that was?
Oh man.
She said something like, "Meet or not now, brother," or something like that.
I want to say it was. I'm going to get corrected by somebody who's listening to the actual recording. I want to say it was
It's
something
okay,
like
it's
that.
okay.
I remember she said something like, "Man, that tiefling is really good looking."
Oh yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. And it was all a hallucination. Yeah, I remember.
So I have some notes here. Bello was the name of the man, assassin orc guy, and he said he was sent by an orc leader, Gethi.
Yes.
And which is an orc tribe in the east. Do I have that right? I mean, it's an orc form, so
Yes.
I mean, orc form. It's a note form.
Yeah. Oh, you read orc.
It is the leader of the orc tribe from the east. Yeah,
Okay,
I believe.
so he admitted that that Gethi sent the two assassins to kill us.
And that it was a purposeful thing to come after the four of you very specifically.
Right.
All right. So I was asking about what she said. If you don't have it written down, then it's not critical. It's just when you said it so specifically that I was like, oh.
I think it was something like, brother, I think it was something like, brother, I'm sorry I couldn't.
Yeah,
I couldn't
like
help
that.
or something like
Something
that.
like that.
It was about the relationship between
Okay.
her and her brother.
Okay.
So did I get most of it there?
I think that was all the important things. The very last thing that's important to point out is the four of you the next day kind of got pushed out of town in an unfriendly way.
Oh, right.
Yeah, right.
Where you were hoping maybe to get some, whether or not you were hoping it, but there was a thought that you might get some recognition for fending the town off from an attack, clearly an attack by the orcs, and instead the townspeople sort of responded by blaming you for their houses burning down.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a I guess not the reward you were hoping for.
Yeah.
But the captain of the guard did give you sort of honorary guard patches for each
That's
of you,
right.
and thanked you for your help, and even gave you some supplies to supply up your ship on the way out, even though he kind of insisted that you leave.
Yeah.
But that leaves us at this place that you're at now, sailing along the beautiful sound.
Sailing.
The thing about being on the water is while there's lots of dangers with sailing, it has an opportunity to sort of isolate you from the rest of the world and the problems of the rest of the world. Maybe this is one of the reasons why Shush has taken to sailing and has gotten himself a boat, because it gives him an opportunity to just be away from the problems and challenges of the rest of the world. And it takes you a couple of days to sail down to the city of Priha, where you're hoping to track down Rapi, and you're hoping to get a little bit more into the mystery of what's going on. But it gives you time to relate with each other and to reflect on things. We're going to fast forward a little bit through this experience, but we are going to set up what are called sort of character bonds between your characters. And this is basically just a quick sentence frame that is how your character feels about another character in the group. And you can use Nicholas as well for this, but what I basically want you to do is I want you to come up with one relationship bond that you have with some other character in the group that your character has. So to give you an example of some sort of frames for this, they can be stuff like so and so, or this character has much to teach me about something, or I admire so and so because some reason. So they're really basic kind of things to define your relationship, and they don't have to be positive. They can be things like, I don't trust so and so. I don't trust this other character, or I blame them for something. So that it can set up some of the idea that even though we're all friends and we all get along, your characters might not always get along. Okay. So who wants to go first? Who has an idea for a relationship bond?
I think Shush would admire Grollo for sort of what I said earlier about sort of being unapologetic. Like not worrying what people think about him. Like Shush's whole thing is like, oh, gosh, I hope people will accept me. I hope I can be part of the team. And Grollo, he would totally take a page out of Grollo's playbook about like saying what's on his mind.
Perfect. And I want you to go ahead and add that as a note somewhere on your character sheet, so that you have that as a little bit of a guiding factor. And Grollo, you should also add that to your character sheet, because Grollo would pick up maybe on some of this interaction.
I'll bet the Shush has like asked Grollo for stories on the boat. Like, whoa, what'd you do next? Really? You just did it. Wow.
Awesome. Kirk,
I'll
you
go.
want to go next?
Yeah. Shush. Thrain was unsure about Shush until our last adventure, in which he showed that he was brave and actually vulnerable to crowds, that he actually acted like he was tough, like he didn't want approval, but actually when he got approval, he liked it. So that was revealing about his personality.
So do you think then maybe the frame for that would be like Thrain now thinks more highly of Shush, or maybe
trusts him and recognizes that he is human or tiefling like everybody else.
You're only human, or actually it's you're only tiefling after all. All right, I have one.
All right, go for
Actually,
it.
I have two. Can I do two?
Yeah.
All right. So I feel I owe my current fortune to Thrain. I mean fortune as in like my current life, because I think I've mentioned before, I was sort of like a very angry, misguided young half-orc man. And Thrain helped me put my skills to good use and kind of set me on a better path. Mm-hmm. And so I really feel indebted to him. So I would easily die for him, like it's not even like, oh, I wonder if I should. No, I'm just like, boom. And
so there's a big debt there.
Yeah. And even though I am impulsive, I won't just like die for just anyone, so that's not a, the other thing is I do love singing whenever Shush plays.
Awesome.
I just like, he plays and I'm like, I love that one, or I don't know it, but I love it.
Awesome. I'm writing all these down. These can be like good opportunity for character interaction. Okay. Over the 2 days, you have lots of time to reflect and be out at sea. And for the most part, you're all by yourselves. You're traveling down the Sound, and most of the time you are within visual range of the coastline. So you're never really very far. There's a couple of stormy moments that you hit, but it's not really much of a challenge, and certainly not for a skilled sailor like Shush. So you make your way to the main docks of the very large city of Bahia. Now, what the three of you all know about this city, at the very least, none of you have been here in at least the last 10 years if you've ever been here at all. And so you're expecting the city may have adjusted, it may have shifted a little bit, it might be a little different than before. But the most important thing that you know about it is that it's a trade hub. Basically, everybody comes here. They bring trade from around the kingdom to trade at this city. But along with that, there's a lot of taxes and there's a lot of oversight to people coming in with trade. So even when you were visiting before, and I'll get kind of a rundown for who's been here before, there was always sort of a customs for coming into the city, especially from the water, where a lot of the trade comes in. So whose character would have been to, this is the central, basically capital city of this kingdom. Whose character would have been here before?
I would assume that my character in his 60 years of being in the region would have come here for some religious or even trade purpose. If it has items that can only be bought there, something he might have been sent on a mission from the temple to buy some things.
Perfect. And was it like a long time ago, or was it?
Sure, we'll say a long time ago.
Perfect. Okay. So you've been here before. Anyone else's character has been here before?
Shush spent some time here as a busker.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Nice.
Perfect. That's extra good, actually. Grollo, have you ever been here?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Thrain and Shush, both of you know that there is a process for coming into the city. The city issues their own sort of ID system for being able to identify people who come in. And you know that while you are allowed to carry weapons into the city, you have to pay a sort of weapon toll or a weapon, I guess, tax, and get a license to have your weapons in the city. So there's a whole process that you have to go through. When you start to come up to the docks and the port, you can see it is crowded. This city is bustling. There's a ton of ships coming in. They actually have to direct you in with your ship to come into the docks and find a good place for you to dock for your stay and your duration. And the docks are just gigantic. They stretch on for a super long distance, just because there's so many people coming in with trade and with various different things related to trade, I guess, would be a good way to put it. As you make your way towards the customs, they look you up and down. They kind of separate you into people who are bringing in like a lot of trade that needs to be inspected, and people who are just bringing in their bags and just traveling into the city. But it's eventually you make your way up to the customs desk, where they ask you if you have a city ID. Now, Shush and Thrain, you've been here before, at least recently enough that you could have had a city ID that was issued a long time ago that would have identified who you are. Would you still have it with you?
If I was leaving town, I guess it would stand to reason that if it wasn't too bulky, I would carry it with me.
Yeah, it'd be like a little piece of paper that has like an official stamp on it. That's all.
We'll say
Mine's
yes.
probably on the boat somewhere.
Cool. So you probably did you? You left
I don't know where I put it on the boat.
So Shush spends like a good half an hour tearing the boat apart trying to find his stupid
somewhere.
city ID.
No.
But you know that you need to get Grollo a new city ID because he's never been here before.
Okay.
Can't I use this city ID?
Is that just your hammer?
No, it's a piece of paper I found.
Oh, I see.
That's my receipt for something unmentionable. Good thing you can't read.
As you come through the line, it's just a painstaking process. But eventually, you make your way up to like the front desk person, who seems to be like a little bit smug and a little bit like tired of having to process a lot of people, and they say. Yes, do you have your, excuse me, do you have your IDs on you? Excuse me, sir.
Yes, I have mine. Here you go.
Yes, I'll take your ID, thank you. Oh, it seems that this is out of date. Are you aware that this is out of date?
It stands to reason. It's been a while since I've been here.
Yes, well, you'll have to pay, once again, I see that you have some weapons on you. You will have to pay the weapon service fee for your out-of-date ID here.
Okay.
The weapon service fee is 5 gold and then 2 gold per weapon, but we will issue you a new ID to go along with that.
Okay.
And he kind of looks over the two of you as well, Grollo and Shushiniga and Nicholas. Nicholas, by the way, I don't know if you guys ever gave him any weapons. He didn't otherwise have any.
He didn't have any?
him.
He doesn't need one.
He has a cool jacket though.
He does have a cool jacket. So Nicholas is like, I don't have any weapons. He also has his own city ID because he was here most recently. Okay. And he just sort of hands his over. But Shush, as you hand over your ID, you get a similar spiel about it being out of date. But
Can I give a little bit of charm?
yeah,
See
give
if I
me
can
give me
remember.
what kind of charm are you looking to apply here?
This person, like you said, looks a little bit like they're bored. They've been having a very long day. I want to like maybe try to lighten the mood a little bit. Maybe just be kind of a smile a little bit. Maybe like a suggestive nod.
Are you hitting on them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
long day.
Give me
Everybody
a
likes to feel
give me a
attractive.
persuasion check.
Right? Isn't that how this works?
It helps when you speak into the microphone on a podcast, Adam.
Sorry, I was reading my character sheet. I'm sorry.
It helps with hitting on
It helps if I tilt my head just so to the side. That's a 16.
a 16. All right. I don't know whether or not this would change anything for Shush. This is sort of a skinny guy. It's a halfling, male with glasses. How does Shush hit on him? It seems reasonably effective at the very least.
I think he'd say, how much more time do you have to work today? We could wrap this up. Think this go a little faster?
My shift is the standard shift of 15 hours long on days where and then he sees like a little bit of a sparkle in your eye and he goes, well, maybe another like 3 hours, you know. I go on a lunch break. I do get a standard lunch break. I already took one of them, but I get a second standard lunch by the regulations of. And he sort of stammers a little. He's clearly like not used to being hit on by people who are coming up to the whole thing.
Well, I'll say that let's say we just let the group in, and I'd be happy to be. I can only have lunch with you if we're inside the city. And I can only buy you lunch if I've got all this gold in my pocket.
I mean, I don't want to lose my job. I mean, I still have to charge you for the weapons and stuff. But if you have like a knife or something, you know, if it's a knife that's under a certain amount, I don't need to charge you for that. You can claim that as like a kitchen knife or something along those lines. That doesn't count as a weapon. So I could waive some of those fees, I guess.
All right.
Does your friend need an ID over there?
Yes, he does.
I have an ID.
Oh, you do have an ID. Wonderful. Go ahead and hand that over.
Oh, what is an ID?
Oh, it's like it looks just like these. Like it says your name right there, and then it has a description of what you look like, and then it has
I don't have an ID.
Oh, okay. So, gotcha. Well, I can issue you a new ID if you need.
No, I don't have one. No.
Okay. I'll issue you a new ID. You need to pay for your hammer, unfortunately.
No, I own this hammer. It is my hammer.
Yeah, this is just a tax for your hammer.
A
to come in.
tax?
Yeah.
Who is going to attack me?
No, a tax is like it's sort of a societal idea of paying towards
I don't like
a greater
this string.
good of a
Just hand her 7 gold.
Shush is just smiling even bigger and like awkwardly trying to maintain that low level of charm that he had established.
Here. No one better attack me.
I want everybody to roll me perception checks while this is all going on.
16.
15.
Awesome.
15.
Awesome. All right, those are all pretty good. You notice all three of you notice 2 things. The first is ever since you pulled into port, Nicholas is looking quiet and nervous. It's subtle, like he's still answering questions and he still talks a little bit, but he is looking around and kind of darting his eyes around quite a bit, and seems to be a little on edge. The other thing that all of you notice, but especially Grollo and Thrain. Grollo, you notice that you're getting a lot of smiles. As you walk by people, you are a half-orc. You're not used to getting like people reacting in a friendly way to you. But people are like smiling at you when you see people like standing in line. They don't seem off put by you in any way, especially given your size. And you notice a disproportionately large number of orcs and half orcs in the city. Obviously, like participating in the trade and things like that. These don't seem like orcs that are necessarily from like the tribal raiding areas, but you just notice that there's a large number of those. The other thing that you notice, Thrain, is you're getting a lot of stink eye.
Oh.
You're getting a lot of people who are doing the exact opposite. They are pacing away from you. You watch a woman like hold her child and like make them face away from you while you're hanging out in line. And you're definitely getting like a lot of people that like try not to look in your direction or maybe even like make a little like grimace and face. The guy that you're interacting with he's not saying anything. He's not giving you any kind of indication one way or the other on any of that. But you're definitely noticing that a lot from the people kind of around you. The rest of the procedure is mostly pretty straightforward. Now, Thrain and Shush, both of you went through a similar procedure when you originally got your IDs, but the city actually has a very specific way that they issue the IDs when you first go through to make sure that you're telling the truth, which is that they have a booth that basically detects whether or not you're telling the truth. So they make you fill out all the paperwork, and then they use the booth just to say, like, did you fill out all the paperwork, and is it truthful?
Oh.
It's like a magic thing.
It is a magic thing. It's actually made by the local university. These kinds of things are really expensive. Nobody except for very, very large cities has something like this. Most of the time, if they have any kind of ID issue or anything like that, other cities will do stuff like they'll just sort of look you up and down and try to determine if you're telling the truth about what you wrote down.
Like America.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
a truth booth.
A truth, yeah, it is actually called a truth booth. And the way that it works is that it's basically just like the spell Zone of Truth, except that it also has a little indicator light that tells you whether or not you resisted the spell or whether or not you're affected by the spell. So it basically just lights up if you resist it, and then the person speaks into a little microphone and says like, relax and let the spell take hold of you so that you can be affected by the Zone of Truth, so we know whether or not you're lying on your paperwork.
Interesting.
So it's very like it's like going through kind of the TSA and you go through the backscatter array or whatever. And it's like generally a very quick and largely kind of painless process. And they only ask you really the one question, which is just, did you lie on your paperwork? Is everything truthful on your paperwork that you filled out? Grollo, since you can't read or write, I assume Shush or Thrain kind of help you fill out the paperwork that you need.
I'm assuming so, yeah.
But is there anything in specific that Grollo would lie about in his paperwork? And it's mostly
what's the question?
The questions are all like, what's your name? Give a description for what you look like. What is your, like, who are your parents? And what is your purpose of coming into the city?
So I would have maybe said, as far as my name, that's fine. And what do I look like? Or what was
Yeah, you have to give like a written description of what you look like.
Handsome orc, half orc, And then I would have probably said my parents are both half orcs or something, which would have been a lie.
All right.
You would have said that?
I mean,
well, I'm writing it.
You're
So
dictating it. So.
I write
no, but so I try that. It's like, just say they're both half orcs.
Yeah, we'll do. I mean, Thrain, you know the story, and you know the.
But you write the right
truth booth.
Yeah, and I say I'm going to write the right thing because they're going to detect it.
But then, how does the Zone of Truth operate in that?
Does the Zone of Truth booth?
But I told you I'm writing the right thing.
Oh, all right. If you say so. And what was the last one?
Why we're here.
Why we're here.
We
sort of have to get on the same page.
Yeah, so I say, we should write why we're really here, which is we're here to investigate we're here to go to the archaeology department and learn about archaeology in the area.
I think Shush would totally remind you that a little bit of truth is just as true as a lot of truth. The word business is enough.
Okay.
Like they don't need,
Then I write business.
I think
as opposed to pleasure. Yeah.
I think business, pleasure, family.
Oh.
It's a business.
That's why we brought you along.
That's right.
You're better at this sort of thing. Okay, so business. We all write business.
Awesome. Grollo, you know what they've written down, so...
Yeah, but it gets a little complicated because Grollo was half following that last conversation. So he's like, okay, we're here to do architecture or some sort of agriculture business. No, wait. Archaeology, that's it. Archaeology business.
Perfect. Grollo, why don't you roll me an intelligence saving throw?
The 20?
Yes, go ahead and roll the d20 and then add your intelligence modifier.
Oh.
What do you roll?
One.
Okay, we're gonna
Don't bother adding.
No, this
there.
is gonna be. What's your intelligence saving throw?
Oh my gosh, the intelligence is -1.
You effectively got a 0.
Oh my god.
Perfect.
Where are my lucky dice when I need them?
Here's a third of your brain bled out of your ear.
Here's how this goes. Technically, all the stuff on your piece of paper is actually true.
Sure.
So they put you, Grollo, they put you into this box, and the box has like a little light on the top, and the guy who's a different guy than the person that you were interacting with. His job literally is just to walk you through, like, answer this one question. That's his only job.
Okay.
Is to have people come into the box and then answer one question.
Okay.
Which for most people is very quick and it's very easy. And in this instance is going to be really just a pain in the butt for Grollo for this one guy. So we're gonna play it out.
Okay.
And basically, my expectation is Grollo probably doesn't understand like the whole situation. Right. So the guy helps you into the box, and he says, the light will turn on. I gotta give this guy a voice. The light's gonna turn on, and it's going to just indicate to you, and you're gonna feel an odd sensation. Just go ahead and let it wash over you. That is just the truth. The zone of truth kind of affecting you, and then you will tell the truth for whatever it is that I will be asking you. I'll be asking you a single question. You understand?
Oh, is that the question?
No, that was just a preliminary. I was just explaining the rules. I'm explaining how the box works.
Oh, okay.
So you
okay.
don't. That wasn't the question. But I do need you to answer that question.
So when the light comes on, you'll ask me a question.
The light's on. You don't need to worry about the light. The light's on my side. You won't even see a light. There's no light on your side. You're not going to see a light. It's just going to be a question that I'm going to ask you
About the light. Got it.
Nope, it's not a question about the light. It's a. You know what? Why don't you go ahead and stand in the? Just go ahead and stand in there. Go
All
ahead
right.
and stand in the booth there.
Okay.
And there. Do you feel the sensation coming over you?
I feel a lot of things. Yes, it's great.
Don't resist. Don't resist that. You gotta.
I'm excited.
The light's on here. It's showing you that you're resisting the spell. You gotta kind of let it affect you. Don't resist it.
Okay.
Okay. The light turned the other way. So now you just have to answer the question. So is the paperwork that you submitted is that all correct?
Well, I didn't submit the paperwork. Thrain submitted the paperwork.
Who's Thrain?
What do you mean, Thrain? You know Thrain.
I don't.
He's my friend.
Why would I know your friend?
Well, I mean,
did you submit paperwork? Is there paperwork? I have this paperwork in front of me. Is your name Grollo?
Yes, I am Grollo.
Oh, okay. But that wasn't the question.
Look, I just told you.
Is this paperwork? Is all the rest of the stuff on this paperwork correct? That you submitted?
Yes.
Perfect. That's all I need. So at this point, there's like a line backup of other people who are all holding paperwork, and the guy is like holding his head in his hands, just trying to get Grollo. So Grollo, the door is like a two-sided door, so you have to go out a different way than the way that you came in. So he goes, the door behind you is going to open. Just go ahead and go out that way, and you're all done. And I'll hand you your ID.
All right.
So do you see the door behind you?
Yes, but what about the light?
I did the light. That already happened.
Okay.
Yeah, you're done. You're done with the
All
light.
right.
There's no light.
Okay, where's my weapon?
It's over here.
Okay.
Over on the. I have it right here.
Okay.
It's just walk through the barrier that way.
All right.
He eventually hands you the weapon, and he like stamps the stuff. You've never seen anybody stamp something so fast. And he hands you over the stuff, and he goes, "Here's your ID. Here's your stuff. Get out of here."
How frustrating.
Now that you guys are finally through customs, on the other side, you get into the city of Prikiha. and the city is phenomenal. Thrain and Shush, you've seen the city before, and it's just a wonder every time you see it. It is massive. It is absolutely gigantic, and the city is just filled with not only people, but smells and wondrous sights to see. There are many people who travel to the city just for tourism, just to see some of the amazing museums, and there's an entire school of magic that exists in the city. It's one of the better schools of magic that exist in the greater area.
Hogwarts.
It's called instead of Hogwarts, it's called
Pig skin tag.
Pig skin tag. That's so terrible. Yeah, it's called. Actually, let's go ahead and name
do a
it.
name.
Give me a letter, Adam.
P.
P.
Umberto, what do you mean?
A.
G.
F.
A.
R.
T.
You're as bad as all the kids in our.
Well, we can end with an H.
Yeah, I'm gonna add an H.
Pagfarth.
This school is called Pagfarth.
I was so close.
It is named after the founder of the school, Sir Reginald Pagfarth.
Oh man, he must have gotten good at magic.
He got very good at magic, as he did not have a lot of friends. So you come into the city and you just see this amazing sight that is all the things that are going on in the city. And now that you are free to walk around, what do you guys want to do? What's your main goal here?
Sorry, quick question. So I took 7 gold away, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we paid her
Yeah. All of you paid for
I
your
took 9 out.
Okay.
because you have
For-
2 weapons.
Yeah.
For any weapons that you would have that would be
Wait, I have
basically
a-
larger than a knife.
They
A
didn't see it.
maul and a sling.
They didn't see the sling.
I'm also curious, Shush, did you wait around for the
Did I get a
for the
discount?
lunch break for the guy?
Did I get a discount?
He introduced himself as Stuart.
Stuart?
Yeah.
Did he give me a discount?
He I mean he at least gave you the
Got my knife in for free.
yeah, you got your knife in for free. I mean, I'm just curious. It's
We have lots of things.
Microphone.
I don't want to like, I don't want to ghost him. I want to be nice, but
We got stuff to do.
I got stuff
you can
to
wait
do.
around for 3 hours.
I'm not gonna wait around for 3 hours.
if
So
we're around and
I'll remember him. I'll write about him in my autobiography.
Yeah.
He'll have a
You'll write a nice review on Yelp.
yeah. Yelp. Yeah.
Yelp.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
So
I just
I-
wanted to make sure.
I turn to Nicholas and I say, your mission with us is almost over. I remind you that if you just get us a access into the archaeology department, whoever hired you, because that's where they were hired.
The person who hired him is the pawnbroker.
Oh, the pawnbroker.
Yeah.
Oh, right, Lord
It was
Blancmere
sort
was
of a intermediary. And
Lord
you sus-
Blancmore is an works at the archaeologist,
Right.
And Nicholas and his buddies were hired by a pawnbroker. So
Right, named Roppy.
Robbie. So I say your mission with us is almost over. You just have to introduce us to Robbie as potential mercenaries for hire.
Nicholas kind of nods along with you as you're saying all that, and he goes, yeah. Well, I feel like maybe it's important for me to tell you that I haven't been like a dues-paying member of the Thieves Guild for all the time that I've been in the city here, and Roppy isn't exactly like
How much do you owe? How much do you owe?
Well, it's hard to say, like between taxes and by other stuff. Well, it's a lot.
So we're talking like 5 gold?
It's a bit more than that, I think. I mean,
6?
I don't keep the books on it. But if I had to guess, I would say 150, maybe 200.
What?
Well, you do a couple of little jobs here and there, and it really adds up on the deuce. They really gouge you on some
That's
of that
like
stuff.
3 times as much as 5. That's a lot of gold.
It's probably at least that, yeah.
How much gold do you have?
Well, including the money that I picked off of that lady in the customs area.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
I got about 10 silver.
Oh, no.
Didn't he get some gold from the reward though?
Oh yeah,
Was-
did you guys give him?
Yeah,
some
he
of that
got
gold?
he got like 25 or something. Or
Oh,
50.
sorry, just 20. I have 25 gold.
Yeah.
How much gold did we get from them?
We all got 25. Or well, no,
No,
we
we
got,
got 30, but you gave some gold away.
yeah, we got 25. We got 55 total from that whole thing, and I gave 30 away.
But then
Oh,
I
gotcha.
gave you back some.
Oh, you must have given me back 25.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So however much that is. But anyway,
He says "Hey, it shouldn't be a problem just so long as nobody from the Thieves Guild spots me.
okay, is the pawnbroker in the Thieves Guild?
Oh no, he's like way up. He doesn't want to run any of the like above board stuff. He's on the same page as me. Not everybody wants to be a dues paying member of some organization or whatever.
So Shush, maybe it's time for another disguise
Disguise
situation.
kit. Well, you've got a jacket. Let's get you a hat. and
Are you just leaning into the Mad Max look that he's got going on?
I want to go full guar on it.
Oh, nice.
You're not going to blend in.
He's like, maybe that's for the best. What is? Can you describe for me the full look you're going for?
So he's already got I believe it's like a wool, big, heavy jacket, right? That's what we gave him last time. Is like this big sort of metal guar style jacket. I want to give him like a rubber mask looking thing that's like green with big high cheekbones, and sort of modeling after my own horns, but like pointier and smaller horns, almost like Darth Maul style horns coming out of the top of his head. But green with red eyes with blood coming out of the eyeballs.
Oh my
Jeez.
god.
It's death metal.
Right. I like it.
It's a pretty specific
yeah.
look.
I dig
Yeah.
it.
What's cool is cool.
Yeah.
You guys.
Awesome. Cool. Roll me a deception check to see how good your disguise is. How accurate it is to that.
That's a 24.
Woo!
Whoa.
It looks
pretty good.
just like that.
I have a lot of time on a boat by myself where I make disguises and then talk to myself in character.
Whoa, that is
it
a
is-
great disguise.
Wow. I don't even look like me.
No, you don't.
I guess that's kind of the point of a disguise now that I think about it.
You almost look intimidating.
Oh, hey, thanks, Grollo. That means a
Yeah.
lot coming from you.
Yeah.
He goes,
Oh, no, just don't do that.
Oh,
now,
all right.
I have an important question though.
sure.
Did you feel the tingly sensation when we were in those booths?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody has to go through. You're talking about like the truth booth?
No, the booths with the light.
He means the truth booth.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody has to go through that. The tingly sensation is just the spell kind of taking over.
I kind of
for
like
you.
the tingly
Yeah.
sensation.
One of these days, I'll teach you guys how to actually lie to the booth.
Whoa.
That's a nice skill to kind of have in your back pocket.
Ugh.
You're developing a spell fetish.
Yeah. Yeah. You're gonna ask Thrain to cast Zone of Truth on you.
Kind of liked how that felt.
Just give me another hit of the Zone of Truth.
Thrain and Shush both have Zone of Truth.
The truth will
ever
set
had-
you free.
How much for just one Zone of Truth?
With a little bit more confidence, Nicholas is kind of leads you through the streets and stuff, and he goes, "Do you want to go straight to the pawn shop? I'll bet he's open right now."
Yeah.
Awesome. So he starts leading you through. A couple of things happen as you guys are walking through the busy streets of Bahia. One of the things is once again the same kind of reactions that you're getting from the people in the city that you got from the customs people you're getting from the people in the city, which is that Grollo, you're getting a lot of like smiles and friendly looks, and Thrain, you're getting a lot of like nasty stink eye and kind of people kind of grimacing or being pretty unhappy with you. In fact, a couple of people from you get to a kind of a really crowded place, and there's a couple of people who throw some rotten fruit at you, Thrain. And say, let's see. It sounds like little kids' voices, and they say, "Go back to your temple, you stupid Moradin." and they're kind of throwing some rotten fruit, and they do it. You don't really see them; they kind of do it from the crowd, and then you can hear them kind of running off. But nobody corrects them. Nobody does anything to like admonish them or anything like that.
I try to. I look around and see if I can see them, and I'm very upset at this.
You chase them down a little bit. They're clearly like good. You're big, and you have to kind of push people away, and they're small, and they kind of flit through the crowd. The other thing, Thrain, that I'll give you that you notice is when you were here, maybe 20 years ago. There were a bunch of temples of Moradin. They were throughout the city. It was a common and very welcome church that many people worship. Now, you pass by some of the buildings that you remember being temples of Moradin, and they're boarded up, or they've turned into other buildings, and they've been torn down. A lot of the temples of Moradin of the city clearly have been taken out. You don't see any temples anywhere.
If I see another dwarf, I want to inquire.
You do see another dwarf. The city is just populated with a really wide variety of different races, and the dwarf that you approach also kind of grimaces at you, and you can see very clearly he's wearing like a cloak that covers up his tunic, and when he turns to face you, you can see he has the symbol of Grumsh, like emblazoned on his chest. And he kind of looks you up and down, and he says, like, what is it you want?
What is going on in this town? What happened to all the temples to Moradin, and why does everyone hate me in this town?
A worshipper of Moradin. I should expect such a thing from some outside dwarf who's uncultured, doesn't know all the good stuff that Grumsh has brought to this city.
Hey, watch your mouth!
Oh, excuse me, sir. I did not mean to offend anything.
This is my friend here.
Has madness befallen you? Grumsh is evil.
Madness? Grumsh has brought us great prosperity.
What prosperity?
I go to the church at least once a week these days in order to pay my true homage and tribute.
You defile your race, sir.
Oh, that's a strong statement coming from some unknown stupid worshiper of Moradin. What has Moradin done for us? Nothing but bar fights and drunken brawls. That's what they say in all the tabloids. That's what they say in all the papers.
That's ridiculous. Moradin created the world, the heavens above us, and the goodness before us.
Moradin
You've
created
forsaken your race.
Drunken dwarfs, not good for anything. And that's all there is to it.
So you don't drink anymore?
Oh, I drink. I just don't drink to excess. Clearly, Grumsh has brought us great prosperity, and he does so through the strength of arms and through the strength of internal peace.
Internal peace, Grumsh?
Indeed, that's what they always say at church. Maintain the internal peace that Grumsh displays at all endeavors.
What sorcery has befallen this town?
I'm speechless. I drink to excess, but this is my good friend. Why are you saying such mean things about him?
Oh, are you a follower of Grumsh, then? I would assume so with a gentleman of your tall stature.
No.
Oh, well, that is unfortunate. Perhaps you should go to the church. Hear their sermons. Perhaps you indeed can be swayed from your evil ways.
Where is this church?
Oh, there are several churches of Grumsh. My favorite one is the one down Abbey Road, down at the end. They have a really beautiful statue right out in the front. I really enjoy eating my lunches down in that area.
Do dwarves go there?
Oh, yes. Grumsh accepts people of all races to help in their worship and, of course, in passing the collection plate around.
I love Grumsh.
Oh, well, then you are welcome in my establishment.
What?
My establishment's not here. I'm out shopping for things, but I have a fish cart that's just up the way on that direction.
Grumsh is wonderful.
You never told me this.
That's because I love Grumsh so much that I have to keep it private.
Don't keep it private. Here,
this?
He pulls out a pendant. He goes, I keep these around for just such an occasion as to encourage people to wear Grumsh on their sleeves. It's like a little pin.
I put it
has the symbol. Of
silly me, I left my other one in my domicile.
Of course. Never want to be caught without your symbol of Grumsh on you.
No. When is the next meeting of the followers of Grumsh? winking my eyes at my teammates over here.
Well, if you're going to the Abbey Road one, which I do recommend, they also have a beautiful stained glass piece depicting Grumsh in all of his wondrous glory. Well, their next meeting, I believe, is today at noon.
I've been following Grumsh for a very long time. How long have you been following Grumsh?
Oh, I've been following Grumsh since about 10 years ago or so, 12 years ago.
10 years ago, when all of the temples of Moradin changed into temples of Gru?
Oh, they showed their true colors back then, that's for sure. All those temples of Moradin, those priests all got busted for various crimes and things. That's when people really started to see the truth about the Moradin followers.
What crimes?
Oh, all the crimes that they got involved in. Well, some of them were just drunken battles and drunken brawls.
With who? Battles with who?
Oh, people in various towns. Some of the followers of Grumsh, in fact, who are only there trying to establish themselves as a worthwhile and noble religion that they truly have been seen to be now.
Oh, maybe they've got a point, Thrain.
Oh my god.
I have many favorite things about Grumsh. What is your favorite thing about Grumsh?
Probably the inner peace it has brought me in everyday activities, such as picking out this beautiful peach that I have here. Grumsh tells me that I should be strong, but strong through not just my muscles of lifting the peach, but strong through my enjoyment of its full experience.
That sounds so Grumsh-like.
Indeed.
By Moradin's beard.
I don't understand any of this, but I do know that they sound very interesting.
10 years ago, you say?
Oh, yes, about that time.
Is there a town historian that might be able to tell us more about this horrible deeds that the Moradinians did?
Oh, yes, of course.
Moradinites?
Town historian would be there's several museums down in the area, in various corners of the area. But if you really want to talk to an expert, somebody who truly knows about all of the horrible deeds of Moradin and all the wondrous deeds of Grumsh, well, you should talk to Lord Blankmere. He's in fact the expert that has truly brought a lot of enlightenment to our city around the subject.
I love Lord Blankmere so much.
Me
He's
too.
Wonderful.
Did you attend his speech and sermon the last moon set?
Remind me what he spoke of?
Oh, well, he went on and on about how it is our duty to help bring in all of the tribes from the orcs in the outer areas and help foster a peace. The king was quite moved.
That sounds pretty good.
Oh, yes, I forgot the king was there.
Wait, you were there?
Does the king always... and gives signals to Grilla not to. I'm onto something here. Is the king? Does he go to all of Lord Blankmere's presentations?
Well, Lord Blankmere is 10th in line for the throne, So the king and he have my understanding is a pretty buddy-buddy relationship, especially over the last couple of years.
The last 10 years.
Oh, yes, certainly. Lord Blankmere has brought great prosperity to the kingdom. The king certainly sees his contributions.
Let's say we wanted to, punish those that were here 10 years ago and who left and were somewhere around in the greater area, and we wanted to go punish them and not ask them any questions about what actually happened 10 years ago, but punish them with our Grumsh-loving weapons.
Do you mean the remaining Temple of Moradin?
Yes.
Oh, of course.
And punish them.
Then, indeed, brother, you shall be able to bring Grumsh into their hearts as well.
Wonderful.
The remaining Temple of Moradin, I believe, is on the other side of town.
Well, I don't think Thrain would be okay with this plan.
Oh, he used to love Moradin. He sometimes forgets about how good Grumsh is.
By Moradin's beard.
Yes, he still has it. We're going to blend in with the Moradinites because he still looks like a Moradinian.
Thrain, what is...
I'm not sure if I trust this fellow over here, but you seem like a perfectly trustworthy fellow, so if you're going to go deliver some heartfelt sermons and maybe some a little bit of justice for their drunken activities, then I say more power to you. Go and visit those Moradins and finally drive them out of the city.
Perfect. Wonderful to meet you. I'll stop by your fish cart later.
Oh, wonderful. Good Grumsh to you.
Good Grumsh to you. May Grumsh be with you.
And with you, sir.
Thrain, what is wrong with Shusha's neck and eyes?
We'll talk about it later.
This becomes sort of a reoccurring experience, and I wonder whether or not Thrain would eventually cover up
No,
his
of course not.
symbols of Moradin.
Thrain is God. God was with me.
He does continue to receive sort of
Moradin will protect me.
a not great treatment from all the people of the city as
Moradin will protect me.
Shush, now that you're wearing a symbol of Groomsh, you can see that people treat you just a little bit better. And Grollo, even though you're not wearing any particular symbol, people are seeming to assume that you must be a follower of Groomsh, maybe because of your orc heritage.
So are we all now converting to Grushism? Is that what we're doing?
Shush.
What would be better? Should I tell Grollo yes or no?
That's a good question.
I mean, I think so. I think you can explain that there is subterfuge that you're trying to do. It's just that he's terrible at picking up cues on the fly.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's still not good guidance.
Well, but it's like you can say like, no, listen.
So
try, like.
So as a character, you have to figure out if you can totally convince him,
right?
Because it's probably a ruse he's going to have to keep up,
right?
That's true.
But at the same time, it could bite us in the ass. This is the Bandersnatch moment right now, where to choose your own adventure, because it's like if you do it, Adam's going to figure out some scenario where he's going to, so I'm just so out of my mind right now to see a dwarf, let alone several others, worshiping Groomsh is just like, I can't even think. So I'm going to
Thrain would be able to help out in this moment normally, but right now he's...
Yeah, so you say... are we really following?
Are we really? Is this what we're converting to?
And Shush will kind of look over at Thrain, who's obviously like not gonna give any input here.
Does Thrain have like a nervous thing he does, like when he's this like upset or overwhelmed? Like does he like do like a
he plays with his Moradin,
strokes his beard,
strokes his Moradin holy symbol that's hanging from his neck. He's just like, give me hope, see me through this difficult time.
Yeah, perfect.
If Thrain's not gonna help, then I think Shush is just gonna like whisper in Grollo's ear. We're pretending to follow Groomsh because it looks like most of the people in this town follow Groomsh. That's weird, but we don't want to be enemies. We want to look like friends. So we're gonna, when asked, say you follow Groomsh.
Okay.
Unless we're in a temple to Moradin, in which case.
Oh God.
We should not pretend to follow Groomsh. We pretend nothing, and we will be ourselves. And so I'll give you a cue. I'll pull twice on my ear.
Oh God!
If you are supposed to follow Groomsh,
I think we're.
And if I'm not pulling on my ear, then you're yourself.
Well, okay. I'm pretty sure I got that.
Let's practice. And I'm pulling my ear. Who do you worship?
Moradin?
No, but the pulling on the ear means Groomsh.
Right, Groomsh.
Fantastic. Who do you follow? I'm not pulling my ear.
Groomsh, I said.
Okay, it's fine. Until I pull my ear again, you're following Groomsh. Perfect. It's an on switch, off switch thing.
Okay. All right, and can I get one of those nifty pins?
Yes. Take mine.
Oh, thank you.
That will be your
Thrain,
reminder.
look, I got a nice new pin.
Moradin's beard.
So the experience that you have, and Nicholas doesn't seem fazed by any of this. He's like, I thought that you guys knew about the whole Groomsh thing. Like it's totally infiltrated like the whole city. They're nuts about the whole thing. I figured you were, I don't know, gonna be prepared for it or whatever.
Not prepared.
Oh, well. I'm not super religious either way. But I will say the tenets of Groomsh stuff that they seem to talk about. He seems like a real friendly guy.
What time of the day is it right now, Ish?
It's I guess we'll say you guys got in the morning, so there's enough time for you to, if you want to catch the sermon, you can do that. You could also head to the Temple of Moradin, the place where Nicholas is taking you. The pawn shop is reasonably close to the Temple of Moradin, so you could go visit there, or you could visit the pawn shop first. The choice is sort of up to you.
I vote for going to the Temple of Moradin.
That's what you would do.
I want to see the sermon and see what the deal is.
Shall we split the party?
I think that's a table table rule. that has
Normally,
to-
I have a table rule against splitting the party. In this particular case, if all you want to do is see the sermon and get a sense, we can totally split up the party if you want to.
Find me at the Temple of Moradin.
So what I'm going to have you guys do is, let's see, you're going to the Temple of Moradin.
Unless you think we could realistically, how long is the sermon? I guess.
They're probably about an hour.
Okay.
I'm trying to find out if he's like he's ensorcellating the audience.
Yeah.
So if I don't come back, it means I'm now a follower of Grimsh.
I also think you would probably not want me around. You know what I mean?
But you are like my.
But I would
Muscle.
probably follow Thrain first.
Well, I'm also trying to think like if we should actually stick together too. So
I think it'd be better to have Grollo around than have Thrain around at the Temple of Grumsh. Well,
Oh no, absolutely
all
no,
the
no.
dwarves are like, whoopity-doo, I love
meant if
Grumsh.
Thrain was gonna go to the Moradin thing.
Yeah.
My inclination would probably be like, well, I'll follow Thrain or something like that. Right?
Yeah.
Unless you give me a compelling argument to stay around, because I'm certainly not like dying to listen to a sermon, right? So
right. No, you're just kind of like my.
I kind of got excited about the little pin.
Yeah.
And now we're doing this Grumsh thing.
But everybody loves you.
Right. So I'm getting some positive
I
attention.
might need that pin back.
Oh, right.
So I could look.
Okay,
like
I
fit
see what you're
in.
saying. All right, so you could probably get me interested that way. That's true.
But I also know that if they are ensorcelating everybody, you're going to be easier to ensorcelate, and I don't really want you to.
yeah. No, actually, I think he has an okay will save. He's just not smart.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to the sermon together. Because either or, I mean, the Moradin Temple is a safe place, but I also have a bone to pick with these Grumsh people. So I have no problem walking in there. Moradin will save me.
So I think this is largely pretty obvious, but I'm going to have everybody roll a religion check.
I probably failed. I got to roll a 3.
You can roll yours with advantage, actually, Kirk.
Okay.
What are we checking? So I rolled a.
So
roll a
religion's
2.
a skill, so you can
yeah.
you can
No,
add it.
I'm saying I rolled a 10.
Okay, cool. So this is just to judge what kind of your character knows about these two religions.
I got a 9.
9, and then what did you end up getting?
Max is 6.
Okay. I'll give that Thrain, you know a little bit more just based on what you would need to know as a cleric of Moradin. You know Moradin's teachings very well.
Yeah.
What you know of Grumsh is Moradin and Grumsh have always been at odds with each other. That's always been true. In general, it's assumed that Grumsh is a bad guy. He's like usually considered a very evil god who does a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, they're the classic rivals between the orcs and the dwarves, between lawful good and chaotic evil.
And Grumsh is often a big driving force in many of the like orc raids and orc religious practices that have a tendency to be especially brutal and especially savage, and certainly in the attacks that they have done on many dwarven cities and dwarven towns.
Yeah.
Have been in the name of Grumsh.
yeah, for eons.
For a very, very long time, since back before anybody can remember a time where orcs and dwarves existed, Grumsh and Moradin have been religions at odds.
And normally, Grumsh temples wouldn't even be in a city. It'd be like practiced on some, back plain and, being hidden in the woods.
Yeah. So this must be hitting you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, it's like Italy suddenly becoming Satan worshippers. Like the Vatican City is like there's no more Catholicism. it's all Satan.
Satan temples.
So for the two of you, specifically a little bit more about the tenets of Grumsh, the actual tenets that you have heard from other places, and they tend to be things like strength and prosperity, but usually prosperity literally means like making lots of kids, and specifically Grumsh destroying all of their enemies. The idea of like raiding towns and destroying other people's is a big tenet of Grumsh's his message. So those are all the messages you guys are aware of from outside the city. But as you walk in to the Temple of Grumsh. You can see it does indeed have a large statue out front. In fact, it appears to be a statue depicting Grumsh himself. Grumsh is an orc who stands probably about, well, the statue is 12 or 15 feet high, and Grumsh stands with a massive spear that he holds. And normally Grumsh statues are if you've ever seen one, they would be like kind of brutal and kind of Grumsh like has a grimace and a scowl on his face. And in this one, he's like holding out a hand like he's being welcoming, and he's got like a smile on his face with his tusks kind of poking out. And you can see he has his classic demeanor, which is a single eye. Grumsh has only one eye, and that's part of the storyline of Grumsh, which is that there's lots of ways to interpret it, but that he lost his eye in a battle with another god. And some people depict him with like an eye with an eye patch, and some people depict him as a cyclops orc. And you can see this particular church depicts him as a cyclops orc.
Cyclops, okay.
And he seems to be sort of welcoming people into the center courtyard. And as you walk in, you can see there's a beautiful stained glass mural of Grumsh that appears to be
at the feet of the statue.
There's lots of people kind of rushing in. So are you still wearing the symbols of Moradin?
Moradin will save me.
Nobody like stops you from coming in, but there are some people who like rush past you and like hit you with their shoulders or like shove you or nudge you for walking in while wearing symbols of Moradin.
I've seen worse.
I don't think you should go inside.
I'm going inside.
You can even hear people mumbling like go back to your tavern, dwarf.
I'm going inside.
Like
Drain, this place looks pretty, actually. I didn't realize Grumsh had such pretty temples.
Don't be deceived.
There's the stained glass depiction appears to be Grumsh like handing food to starving children while holding his spear at his side. Actually, I'll do that one even better. It's him handing food to starving children while stabbing enemies with his spear from the other side, like he's protecting them.
It's very tasteful.
It's a nice stained glass piece.
I didn't know Grumsh was getting so kind.
Don't be deceived, Grollo.
As you come into the temple, you take a seat in the back mostly because people kind of crowd you into taking a seat in the back, whether or not you like it, because of the symbols of Moradin. You hear the sermon, so you don't need to roll any checks for this. The sermon is mostly kind of mundane. There's no magical ensorceling that's happening here. People are sort of worshiping Grumsh, and they seem to be doing it because the sermon is like restorying all of the stuff for Grumsh.
Kind to your neighbors, all that.
Yeah, it's basically like you have inner rage that makes you powerful, but use it in order to fuel yourself and your search for inner peace. Like it like takes all the premises and ideas of Grumsh, and it like turns them on their heads and restories the whole thing to be like a positive neighborly idea that Grumsh is promoting here.
I pray to Moradin to give me guidance during my most difficult hour.
I will give you that. You still have your connection to Moradin, but in this place and in this city, especially, it feels weak. It feels like it's a hard pull to get that feeling of your connection to Moradin. It's still there. You can still pull on it, but boy, it takes a lot more effort now than it does when you were traveling on the ship or when you were traveling outside the city.
Stands to reason.
It's definitely muffled here.
Are they singing songs?
Yes.
So Grollo starts getting kind of pulled into this because, I mean, he doesn't like the Grumsh backstory, but he's like, oh, this seems pretty nice, and then he likes music, and so he kind of starts singing along a little bit, like he doesn't know the words, so it's like, rah, rah, kind to others,
and they're like classic church songs where they're like really easy to pick up,
right,
and really easy to join
Holding
into.
hands,
Right.
with Groomsh, and I like look over at Thrain and smile. Hey,
And Moradin's beard give me strength.
It's hard for you to listen to, Thrain. It's definitely the whole thing. Not only is it clearly wrong about everything, some of the stuff is like stuff they just made up. Some of it's
Right.
not even like Groomsh stories. There's even a story in there that you're almost certain is a story about Moradin.
Yeah.
That they just put Groomsh into Moradin's spot.
Right, that's why I'm actually less concerned, because these people are basically worshiping what they think to be a good god, a just god, and that's less concerning to me. They just have grafted a wrong name on it, so it's less bothersome to me. It's still a massive concern, but I'm not like worried this entire town has turned to evil, you know.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And maybe that's like the one solace that Thrain kind of holds on to through this experience.
Yeah, it's still quite upsetting.
They do pass around the sort of collection plate and gather money, and people are reasonably generous with their funds and what they give to Groomsh. When it comes around, the person who's giving the sermon, who's just a human, but he's giving this very nice sermon about a god that is usually pretty evil. And when the plate starts getting passed around, he reminds all the partitioners that the taxes on the churches have gone up, and that the money that they give helps to make sure that their church is well maintained. And even though those taxes have gone up, they know they can rely on the people of the city to help with that experience.
I think I'm about to grab like 3 gold.
I go, no, Grollo.
But it sounds so good.
Don't be deceived, Grollo.
It's everything Shush can do not to try to steal a couple of coins out of the.
Yeah, I guess Nicholas would give it a shot.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna roll.
Is he
for
still in
Nicholas.
his Gwar outfit too?
Yeah, he totally is. He stands out too, but frankly, next to Thrain, like nobody cares. He got a
Rockstar.
2. Thrain, you absolutely see him like grabbing money off the
I
plate.
go, no.
Yeah, I was gonna say, would Thrain stop him? He's stealing
Yeah, it's-
money from the church.
Look,
It's wrong.
I've been in
Bruce.
other temples before, even temples that I wasn't super appreciative. Not Groomsh, but like, you know, there's other neutral and slightly more devious temples that I've been around. So I understand how to play nice in other people's religions. So I'm, you know, and I'm like, this is just so confusing. But no, I'm not. You can't steal. Plus, it's not good PR if someone sees him do that. It's not. It's
Yeah,
not a
that's
good-
true. That's something that will get you super kicked out of the church.
One of the stories they were telling, the one that was like directly ripped off from a Moradin story, like I don't know that, but I'm like, but Thrain, did you hear the part about the, you know, I like
we'll say it was literally Groom's crafted weapons to defend against a great evil,
Did
which
you
is
hear-
literally like a thing Moradin would do.
Yeah. Grollo, I've told you that story before. Moradin achieved that greatness.
I knew it sounded familiar.
They are deceiving the crowds.
Oh,
Resist. Use your intellect, your superior mind.
right. Okay. Hey, Shush. That thing we were doing with the pulling of the ear. I don't know if I want to do that.
Who do you worship?
Well, I don't. Moradin.
Yeah.
The person who's like sitting next to you on the bench is like giving you like a like what are you talking about? And they're like and like trying to like turn away from you or
Oh, right. Yeah. Groomsh.
That's right.
Groomsh
Yes.
is who I worship.
Here in this room,
What is wrong with your eye?
I'm closing one of them, so you will know that I'm having words that mean opposite of what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
Yes.
this. Okay.
Either way, the sermon comes to an end.
They're winking at each other.
they just spend the
Gorilla
rest
is like,
going,
sermon trying to
Because Gorilla kind of likes the feeling of winking.
you
I
guys
think Grollo's discovering some new sensual.
yeah, a lot of sensation stuff that Grollo's picking up.
Have you ever tried winking in a zone of truth?
The sermon comes to an end, and everybody kind of leaves the church and says "Good Grumsh" to you, and may Grumsh be with you, and things like that. Some people kind of mumble those things in your direction as well, but they're reasonably put off by both your conversation and the fact that you're traveling with somebody from Morden.
Right.
So they kind of mumble it and then kind of move on with their stuff. Nobody wants to like attack you or anything like that. They're kind of I guess hoping that you'll go away more than anything else.
Right.
As you leave the Temple of Grimsh, I want everybody to roll me a perception check.
21.
Nice, that's awesome.
15.
Wow, those are all pretty good. Thrain, you notice this first. At the very base of the temple of the statue of Grumsh, with his hand stretched out.
Next to my spit.
Next to your spit. Maybe you look to make sure your spit's still there, so you don't have to waste another one. You can see that there is.
Yeah, I was getting a really good dwarf loogie.
You're building it up. Really want to deliver
Like the
it.
whole sermon.
Working it out there. As you come up to that spot, ready to huck your spectacular loogie onto it, you can see that there's like a little pedestal. It's designed to leave things for the temple or something along those lines. And there are a couple of things on there. There's like flowers and things like that. But underneath the pedestal, you can see there are red stains that are seem to be sort of seeped into some of the rock there, some of the stonework. And at first you wouldn't have noticed them. It looks like somebody like did a pretty good job cleaning them up, but some of the stains are still there, kind of seeped into the cracks. And you can see it definitely looks like blood. It's not something that any of the normal practitioners would have probably noticed. It's only because you like really want to make sure to spit all over this thing that you even catch it at all. But it definitely has that reminiscent idea that it's probably blood seeped into those cracks.
Well, first I release my loogie in a glorious fashion.
It is truly glorious. Yeah.
It
Like
has
Morden's
bass as it
beard.
comes out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a thoof.
Yeah, and you hear like a
Yeah.
like a full splat noise.
That's impressive, Thrain.
So I take a closer look. Actually, I just sort of I try not to look like I'm checking it out, but I try to, in my dwarf fashion, just try to look, even take maybe a half circle around, checking it out to see if I can see anything more.
From the angle, it actually kind of looks like you're praying to Grumsh, so nobody really bothers you as you're like leaning down at the foot of the statue. It looks like there's blood. It just seems to be seeped into some of the cracks. Like somebody cleaned up a lot of the blood, and this is what they couldn't get to.
Right.
And so, but it looks reasonably fresh. In fact, with the 21, I'll give you that you see a couple of different spots, and there's some more fresh blood and some like clearly not fresh blood. There's sort of a mix, whatever caused blood to be here happened on multiple occasions.
Do I know anything
Yikes.
about Grumsh sacrifice?
Yes. You would know sacrifice is a big part of Grumsh.
Your enemies or your
Yes,
own?
even your fellow teammates, if they display weakness, it is your job to cull the herd so that Grumsh only displays strength.
Yikes.
So you know that like orcs and tribes will 100% kill the leader if they think they can take over leadership, and they will kill younger and less capable other orcs if they display any level of weakness that they think might reflect badly on Grumsh, but certainly poorly for battle.
Okay. So, are we walking away?
Yeah, there's nothing more to really be gained by that. I wanted to give you that.
Do you point that out to the rest of us?
So, Shush and Grollo, I saw the evidence that these Grumshiites are sacrificing their weak and their enemies in the way that Grumsh followers do in the open plains with the orcs. And it appears that they might be cleaning it up in an attempt to hide their tracks. They're probably doing it when the sun is set and the evil falls upon this city, I suspect nighttime might be dangerous for us.
But they were saying such pretty things.
All deception and lies.
What if they come for you, for us?
We will stand and Moradin will save us.
I don't know if that's 100%
Have faith.
true. Could you tell with the blood, like, last night, 10 years ago?
Recently, probably last night.
Oh, my. Well, I suppose we should go to the Temple of Moradin, then.
Yes.
Cool. You guys head to the Temple of Moradin. It's still early in the day. You travel across the city. The city's large enough; it takes you quite a long time to get to the other side of the city. It's a good thing that the pawn shop's actually in the same kind of area. The area
like
that
rickshaw we could hire.
oh, you could hire a rickshaw, but cut some of your time down. Do you guys want to hire a rickshaw or a cart or something?
Sure.
Cool. I'll say it costs a gold. It doesn't cost a crazy amount of money to travel to the other side of the city.
Well, it's on Grollo.
All right. I've got this one.
You hire do you want to hire a cart or a rickshaw?
Whoa, what's nicer?
The cart is nicer.
I like the cart. It's a little more comfortable.
Grollo, would you pick the white painted cart or the brown painted cart?
The brown painted cart.
Okay. You pick a cart to take you to the other side of the town. The cart is it appears to be sort of a shipping cart. Like they ship goods from one side of town to the other, but they take on passengers when they have too light a thing. So you're literally sitting in a cart with a bunch of goats. So you're like traveling along down the thing, and there's some goats that are like getting in your way as you're trying to have conversation with each other. But it's reasonably cheap, and some of the other stuff would have been a lot more expensive.
Nice.
So.
Grollo, don't eat them.
But they look so yummy.
Nah. The goat kind of takes a bite out of some of the cloth hanging off of Grollo's clothes and starts eating it.
It's eating me. I should be able to eat it.
We have to buy it, and we don't have time for such things. We will have a feast later.
Can we take some back to the domicile?
We'd have to cook it. I'm sure they have people that can cook such things.
By the way, Grollo now believes that domicile is a synonym for boat.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's perfect. You guys pull up to.
You're just trying to go back through the truth booth.
Yeah, just trying to get another hit. As you pull up to the Temple of Moradin, the cart's like not keen to wait around. The neighborhood is not a nice neighborhood. You're in like a pretty sleazy part of town, and there's a lot more rundown buildings here, and there's a lot more. The street's not as well maintained. It's definitely you're in the poor part of town. And as you pull up to the Temple of Moradin, there's a bunch of paint on the side of the wall that says like "Go home, hammers," which seems to be sort of a slang term for Moradinites. And you can see that there's like a worshiper of Moradin who seems to be trying to clean the paint off the side of the wall as they're doing their best. This is easily the most rundown Temple of Moradin you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
They're like barely holding it together. It's clear that they don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of worshippers. You've seen temples of Moradin in the middle of the country, way better maintained than this place.
Yeah.
And as you come in, you can see the pews and the spaces. There's just not a lot of people there. There's a few that are sort of hanging out, and they seem to be older dwarves who clearly are worshippers of Moradin. And they're not in the middle of a sermon at the moment, but you can see that there's a cleric, a priest of Moradin, who is up in the front area, sort of cleaning up what appears to be some broken glass that's sort of hanging. He seems to be sweeping up on his own up at the front part of the Temple of Moradin. He doesn't really see you come in as the door is sort of broken and hanging off of its hinges from the front area, so he never hears the door open. So as you walk in, you can basically sneak up on him because he's not paying that much attention to you.
Thrain, this place looks terrible.
Indeed it does.
Not as nice as those other temples.
Indeed it doesn't.
I thought your temples were supposed to be nice.
Indeed they should. Master Priest, we've come from a far place to come to find such a terrible thing in this town.
He looks up at you and seems his face just lights up. So happy to see a cleric of Moradin coming into his temple, and he drops his broom and his stuff that he was using to clean up the glass, and he goes, I gotta get this accent right. Oh, it's wonderful for you to come in here and grace us with your presence. Thank you so much for coming and visiting the Church of Moradin. Can I get you some water or something along those lines?
I should ask you this. You have been suffering as a beacon of hope in a vast sea of evil Grumsh worshippers. The fact that you have sustained your worship and your temple in such odds, I should be the one bringing you things, sir.
He sort of looks at you warmly, and he says, "Oh, what nice words to be saying to an individual such as myself. It's true that times have been hard." And he takes like a long look, kind of looking around his own church, and he goes, "Well, maybe harder than they have been in the past. But I appreciate your presence here, and any good doer along with the Church of Moradin is a welcome presence into our church here."
And don't be alarmed by the Grumsh symbols. They're only wearing them to fit in. They do not follow the evil Grumsh.
I was a bit alarmed. You're not followers of Grumsh?
We are, yes.
They're deceiving.
We're not the followers of Grumsh.
Right, no, we're not.
He says, the plate's already been given to the taxmen. We can't, there's nothing to steal. There's nothing here to steal.
We're not here to steal, sir.
Is he afraid of Grollo?
Yeah, he does look a little afraid of Grollo, like you might. Actually, if you're still wearing the symbol of Grumsh, he looks a little afraid of both.
I have the little symbol.
Oh yeah,
Grollo's
then he definitely looks a little like he's holding his hands up like
And
like
I
you're
just
gonna rob
said I
him or
was a
something.
Grollo supporter.
Yeah.
Or a Grumsh supporter.
Yeah. And he kind of moves behind Thrain a little bit, like Thrain's gonna protect him from Grollo, and
You have nothing to fear. Grollo is an old friend of mine, and although he comes from half of the race of Grumsh, he's a good soul.
Sorry, I forgot we were doing a thing. Oh, never mind. I'm not doing a thing.
You're not doing a thing. You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
you watch Nicholas kind of put his head into his hands as
Every
watching
time
the whole
that
exchange.
you're not, for those of you who can't see what's happening, is every time Shush pulls on his earlobe, Grollo flips whatever he just said, even though he's not supposed to.
The priest introduces himself, and I need a name for this priest. Kirk, would you give me a letter?
What would be a good dwarf? D.
R.
E.
G.
A.
That's actually pretty good. We'll go with Draga. He says, "Welcome to the Church of." Oh wait. Welcome to the Church of Moradin. I welcome anyone so long as they aren't going to do things bad for the church or steal stuff or break any more of our windows.
No.
So I'll welcome you too, young man.
Yeah, I don't intend to do any of that.
It's greatly appreciated.
What happened?
Well, it seems like you've not been here in a long time.
Not for 20 years.
Let me give you a little bit of a rundown, since I've been doing this for so long. He invites you into a back room where he's got like a little, very simple bedroll and a very simple like desk, and he pulls out like a book. It's like a journal that he's been maintaining for some time, and he tells you a little about the history of what's happened over the last 10 years. And I'm not gonna roleplay the whole of this, but what he basically gives you is about 10, maybe 11 years ago, Lord Blancmere basically showed up and started this campaign. The campaign basically included he would go around and give these sermons about a need for accepting many perspectives and many races. And his specialty had been orcs for a long, long time. And he said that on a recent expedition, he found he unearthed a bunch of extra tomes about the history of Gruumsh, and brought them with him and basically distributed them throughout the city. And the tombs basically told these stories about Gruumsh as this good guy. And at first, the Temple of Moradin was like unhappy about it, but they, weren't gonna go around telling people you're not allowed to worship some other god whose tenets seem to be pretty good. So they kind of didn't do anything. But then something strange happened. About 2 years later, the churches of Gruumsh started cropping up more and more. And then all of a sudden, there was this sort of set of rumors that started going around that Moradin was bad. And some of the stories that started coming up, read supposedly from the Gruumsh books, started depicting Moradin as this really negative influence, both on youth and on older dwarves and some extra quote unquote tenets that Moradin did. And of course, the Church of Moradin fought back. They upped their presence in the community. They tried to do as much as they could, which worked for a little while until a bunch of the heads of churches started getting arrested. And they were getting arrested for all sorts of stuff. They were getting arrested for like starting bar fights that they clearly never started, or they were getting arrested for, in some cases, like underground dealings and smuggling money away from the people and away from the churches for buying their own wealthy estates and things like that. And some of it went unproven, but the individual who led the church was never sort of brought up on charges, and so it wound up just being a rumor that just hurt the church overall. And over the course of the long length of time, eventually this eroded the presence of Moradin within the city and brought about this sort of weird, prosperous place where Gruumsh is strongly worshipped. And he says the whole thing happened over such a long period of time that it was hard to keep on track of. And then once they started losing the heads of church for Moradin, there wasn't much they could do.
Are there heads of church of Moradin imprisoned?
He says, aye. There are at least a few of my colleagues who sit in rotten jail right now underneath the capital. There's nothing that we could do about it. We've brought everything we could to the king to plead for their release, but the charges that were brought to them were, well, too great for us to provide evidence towards or against.
Who did the king worship before Lord Blancmere showed up?
Well, the king doesn't have an official stance on any of his worship, and he never worshipped anybody before either. He's not an official supporter of Gruumsh, but he does attend a lot of the sermons that Lord Blancmere puts up. A lot of people have accused him of being kind of a orc sympathizer, which was a problem up until, well, everybody was.
They accused him of being an orc sympathizer before Lord Blancmere came around?
No, that wasn't until afterwards.
Oh.
But over the last 5 years, nobody seems to care anymore.
Was the king a good king before Lord Blancmere showed up?
I would go so far as to say the king's always been a good king. He, in fact, just brokered a peace with a nearby country that we've been at odds with for a long time. The king's always had a strong stance of peace within the kingdom. And I must admit, even though the city here seems pretty bleak for all the followers of Moradin, the reports I'm getting from outside the city say that this is a prosperous time. We've never seen such a time of peace for such a long time.
Have you ever had any parishioners disappear in the middle of the night mysteriously?
More than I can say. But how many of them are due to attacks on Moradin from the people of the city, I couldn't tell you.
If Moradin is guiding me correctly, which you know he always does, I'm sorry to say that the Gruumsh followers have been sacrificing our followers in the middle of the night at their temples. They're spilling our blood and killing us.
He looks kind of horrified by the idea. And then he seems to sort of settle into complacency, and he says, "It does make a lot of sense, but frankly, nobody trusts us in the city anymore. I don't know what I would do about it, even if I had something to point it to. If you had evidence, if you had hard evidence, maybe we could do something with that. I don't think the guards corrupted. I just think that they've followed by the will of the people."
Well, we could use that little funny booth and put the priests in there or something.
I don't know what funny booth you're talking about.
The truth booth.
Oh, I guess so. It's really only used for customs.
I'm worried about you and your parishioners. On one hand, I think this town needs a beacon of hope and truth. So I commend you for staying, and I think you should stay. But on the other hand, I worry for your lives. He's an older dwarf, and he's clearly like much older than Thrain is. But he puts like a warm and gentle hand on Thrain's shoulder, and he says, "I've survived the hard times and the thin times just as much as I've survived the prosperous ones. I don't intend to be driven out of this city any more than anybody else, and I keep to myself most of the time these days. So there's not much to pin on me. I have had to give up my favorite drinking holes, just because of the messages. But this point remains, I will be here, and my church will remain so long as I'm here to guide it." Well, among all the dwarves in this town, you're the only dwarf I know in this town.
And he grips you by both shoulders and like gives you a hearty like shake, and then hugs you. And he goes, "Your worship and your support means more than you can ever know."
I grab the pin. I'm like, I don't think I want this thing anymore.
I'll hold it.
So we need a conference. So what should we do?
Oh, Thrain, you were right about these people. This seems horrible.
Well,
It is horrible.
We have to go to the pawnbroker,
Yeah.
It's only just down the street from here.
and then I think we should watch the statue at night.
Yeah, I think so too.
If they're sacrificing
stake it out and
people, we
see
need to save them.
Yeah. True. Okay.
Perfect. As you leave, the Draga does give you some water to sort of part your throats, and he says he can't spare much, but he offers you some bread as well to have something to eat. It's a common practice of churches of Moradin, if you're a priest of Moradin, to offer you food and stay, even if you wanted to stay with them for free. So he offers all of those things as is common practice.
As we leave, I put my pin back on, and I wink at both of them and say, "You terrible followers of Moradin, good thing we're followers of Groomsh." And I pull on my ear. Getting back in character around the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for Groomsh.
Yeah.
Hooray.
And I painfully wink back.
You got it. You're doing great.
Draga nods in an understanding way, but he also looks kind of sad as you take on the sort of accepted role in the community. But he doesn't say anything back, and he kind of gives a small wave, and he nods in Thrain's direction as like an extra knowing nod of the challenges ahead.
Yeah.
As you get closer to the pawn shop, Nicholas starts to rub his hands together, and he goes, actually, Rappy actually owes me like a little bit of money, so I'm kind of happy that we're maybe gonna go visit him. He does owe me for this job that we actually did, and since there were 4 other people, I might get actually a pretty decent extra cut. He doesn't have to split up any of the extra money from it. So, all things considered, I'm not sure this is the best place for me in this city, but I am a little happy to get a little extra money in my pocket. He goes, "This place is just up here. One thing, Rappy's got kind of a funny way of talking. He's a nice guy. He's nice enough, at least. But he doesn't really like it if you make fun of the way that he talks. He's not all good at talking like you and me and everybody."
Right.
Duly noted.
He nods and he walks up to the window, and you can see the pawn shop is like it's got kind of dirty windows, and you can't really see in very well. But the instant that you get up to the front door, all of a sudden Nicholas looks a little stricken, like he goes a little pale, and he goes to pull the front door open, and it looks like the glass and the doorknob have broken on the front door. And he kind of looks over all three of you, and he like pushes the door open a little and then backs up to let you walk in first.
That doesn't look good.
He goes, Rappy keeps a pretty good security system. He doesn't let this kind of thing happen. He maintains his door pretty well.
I take out my hammer and open it with my hammer.
It looks dark inside. Normally there are sort of sconces and torches and things like that, so to keeping the place well lit. You can tell they're all blown out. Well, there's tons of stuff in here, and there are like weapons. It's a pawn shop. He takes in everything. You can see stuff that looks like junk and stuff that looks like it might be valuable, and it's all scattered about. But you don't see anybody at the front counter. And you can see there's a door behind the front counter that kind of leads into a little back room area.
Does it look looted?
No, it doesn't look looted at all. But definitely the door is broken and the lights are all out.
Okay. So, Grollo, follow me. And I walk through and into the back.
I'll take up the lead, but I'll have our Guar-dressed friend between us so that he's not last.
You're taking the lead?
No, I'm going to take up the rear.
The rear. Okay.
I get my maul ready.
Okay. Are you pulling out your weapon as well?
Rapier.
Okay. As you make your way into the back room, Thrain, it's not hard to notice. You find your way into the back room, and you can see there lying on the floor is a halfling, and it looks like his throat has been slit. And in fact, it looks like it happened fairly recently. You can see that he's lying on the ground and clutching in his hand. You can see a piece of torn cloth. Go ahead and roll me a investigation check. Everybody can roll this.
15.
14.
That's an 8.
Grollo and Thrain, you recognize the torn cloth as being a torn cloth. It's a black cloth of a particular hardy material, and you've seen this weave in cloth before. You saw it on the orc assassins that had come after you. It looks like Rappy is dead. His throat was cut, and he is bleeding out.
Nicholas, is this your friend?
I try to heal him.
He's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah. If you had been here maybe minutes before, you might have been able to catch him. Okay. But clearly he died pretty quick after somebody slit his throat.
I apologize and say once I get 7th level spells, I can resurrect him.
Yeah.
But,
so I say, Nicholas, is this your friend?
Nicholas kind of looks a little sick, actually, and he goes, "Yeah, that's Rappy, all right. Man, what a way to go."
I pick up the cloth and I say, "It looks like the sister was here."
Yeah, that's the same cloth.
And I'll also say, especially now that you're kind of investigating him a little bit, you can see that Rappy's got burn marks on his wrists that look like he was tied up. It looks like somebody had Rappy here for some time and then killed him.
Ooh.
And in this moment, all four of you, I guess, with Nicholas, you hear a loud sort of booming noise coming from outside. And the booming noise is like a loud clap, not like an explosion, like a loud clap, like like somebody coughing, actually, but into like a super loud cough. And then you hear like a you in there? We know you're in there. We know that you're armed. This is the town guard, and you will come out with your hands up. And that's where we're going to end for today.
Okay.
Oh, no. We've been set up.
So that's the end of this particular campaign and a solid cliffhanger, I hope.
Yeah, cliffhangers and mysteries.
Not the overall campaign. The end of today's campaign.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, listeners, I hope you're following and enjoying the storytelling magic of Adam Johns.
Some
I feel
emotionally
so
charged.
guilty right now.
Because
We could have been there
That's true.
if we didn't go to either of those temples.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a very emotionally charged day for Thrain.
Or they saw us coming and killed him as we were.
I
Either
think
way,
it was a setup.
I'm taking personal responsibility
Yeah.
for everything that happened.
I think we were set up. Because, anyways, yeah.
Yeah, now it's getting personal.
Yeah.
It's like sad.
Yeah. But that explains why they were so into me,
Yeah.
into Grollo.
Well, Lord Blancmere was also.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they're like, but I feel like Blancmere was, well, who knows, but he might have been more academic. But no, he obviously made up shit that wasn't real, unless someone we discovered this.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Superman, where he has that that booth in the Fortress of Solitude,
Yeah.
and then he reverses the polarity in the booth?
Are you asking me?
What if?
Wait, hold on. Are you asking us if we've seen the movie Superman?
It was a setup for the next part.
By the way, it's Superman 2 that you're
Thank you. I'm glad 'cause I don't remember that much.
Okay.
About the various.
Oh my god.
Those various Supermans.
Reeves Supermans, at least. What if we got a truth booth
Right.
and we reverse the polarity Superman
Right.
2 style,
Right.
and we got to expose Blancmere's
Right.
with the light.
Oh.
Superman 2.
Well, this is the thing
Style.
that Grollo, in all his silliness, he does sometimes think clearly, and so he's like, the booth was like for finding out if someone's lying. Well, I mean, why don't we just
Yeah.
one plus two?
It's a good idea.
that's 3. Yeah, that makes sense.
I like that idea. Actually, that was entirely unintended. So I did the whole thing with the truth booth. That was like totally not an intended idea.
The question is, does the truth booth function from the top? Is it like a circle? Where is what makes the truth booth, and can you move
I
it?
have to go to the research. Do a little research.
Can we take it with us and then hold it horizontally and then move it?
affect him horizontally,
Or call him out and make him come down to the docks and
We're gonna have to hatch some sort of plan.
answer some questions and obviously
A-team style.
we also
does that make you Mr. T?
Oh yeah.
I guess it would make Grollo
Pity the
Mr. T.
fool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. And I'm afraid of
It
flying.
makes you face, and I
That's
think
true.
it makes you the
Hannibal.
leader guy. I think you're
Hannibal.
Hannibal.
Yeah, you're definitely face. And then
And Nicholas
Or
is
Murdoch.
Nicholas is Murdoch.
Well, no. Oh, okay. You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say
Oh, because he has
Murdoch
the
is a
ship.
pilot.
Yeah, he does have the
and
ship.
wacky. So I mean,
Yeah.
Shush is kind of. But then we don't have a face. We
Yeah,
need a
that's true.
face. Because
No, I
Nicholas is not a
think
face.
Shush is the face.
No, I think that
Yeah.
works better. Yes.
he's this charming
Yes,
one.
yes.
Have you watched a lot of A-Team?
I
Man?
have literally never watched it.
What? Oh my god. Oh my
I was
God.
like,
You were
So-
too young.
so
I mean,
in
how old are you?
every
How old are you
episode-
now?
I'm 15.
How old are you, Adam?
I'm 122. I think it was.
So in every episode of the A-Team, there's some big struggle. The A-Team has these 4X special forces, but they got wrongly accused of a crime they didn't commit, so they're on the lam, right, from the government. But they're super skilled and trained and all this stuff. And every episode, they go to some little town, and there's some big problem happening with some rogue bad guys,
Like
And
Grumsh.
like Grumsh, exactly. And this is D&D, but in a 80s style, right?
Yeah.
And so they have
There's
to.
often a pretty girl that
There's definitely a pretty
face
girl,
the
yeah.
face man.
And so they always have to solve this. But one of the things they do in every episode is at some point they're locked away in some place and they gotta MacGyver themselves some sort of contraption that's gonna help them take on all the baddies because they're always outnumbered. So they usually build. They grab a crane and they attach some parts and some metal and some spikes,
Yeah.
and then they burst out of the barn and then
It was montage music.
yes, total
It
montage.
plays the A-Team theme.
Yes.
So my wife's name is Alyssa, and so both of our names start with A. So when we walked out after we were married and we walked out onto the floor, we played the A-Team.
Oh my god, that's
That's pretty great. My wife and I walked out to that song that they introduced basketball players to. Y'all ready for this?
Oh. So therefore, we're going to have to A-team a contraption with the booth. And then, save the town for the...
That's exactly what we need.
And we can get that cart involved like their van.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I do have a friend who works at the booth now.
That's true. Oh my God.
His name is Spencer, I think.
I love it when a plan comes together.
I don't know if I should tell you his name or you should just remember.
I'll have to re-listen.
That's wrong.
Not Spencer.
But I like the idea that you're going to try to call him Spencer.
Spyro Agnew?
Yeah.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining us out there. Stay tuned for episode number 5 of this adventure, and please take care of yourself because
you deserve it.